we have to start with Canada, eliminated from the Women's World Cup in horrible fashion, really.
Yeah.
It was a disappointing result, to say the least. 4-0. They were never really in the game. As you see there, Australia and Nigeria, huge story, great story from Nigeria, being able to get through there. But Canada, Sarah, out of the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the first match against Nigeria, I had doubts. They did not look like they were present in this tournament from that match, and moving forward, it only got worse and worse. Sure, against Ireland, we saw that second half of some brilliance, but it wasn't enough to convince me fully, especially against Australia. And what did we see? I mean, a thrashing. Like, within the first few minutes, I was like, this is going to be bad. You felt it. They were lacking the grit. They just looked flat. And I mean, fair play to Australia. They smashed them. They had a great game. The fans were behind them, like really good crowd. But it was not a good tournament. And I think there's a lot of people to blame. Really quickly before we jump to you, James, we did put out that poll. So I asked you guys on Twitter, who's to blame for this disappointing performance from Canada? 11.1% said the players, 38.9% said Canada Soccer and CSB. Another 11.1% said Bev Priestman, excuse me. And then 38.9%, there you go, said, oh, it's changed since then.
No, it's gone up, 43.8%.
Said all of the above. So lots of blame on all of the above, lots of blame on Canada Soccer and CSB. But I mean, like, James, it's all over the place.
So
right now.
Everybody on Twitter is essentially saying this is whatever's happening off the field, that's the problem. It's not the players, it's not the coach, it's a CSB issue, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, but listen, the CSB gets hammered, and rightly so in some regards. You can't hang this all on them. I mean, we discussed before the tournament, there's a number of excuses waiting to be used for this team, right? Okay, CSB, labour strife, yup, check, done that. Injuries to Janine Becky, Desiree Scott, yep, check that. Lack of playing time for the Deanne Roses of the world, the Adrienne Leons, yep, check. A 40-year-old superstar who's not a superstar anymore, yep, check.
That's a lot of checks. That's a lot of checks.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be that surprised by this, right? It was disappointing, there's no doubt. These are Olympic champions just 2 years ago, but they didn't get the job done. They were flat, like you said, Sarah, and I don't know how you come out again in another must-win match, essentially. Just don't lose this match, you're good, and you come out flat. The players should be held accountable, so should the coaching staff, so should Canada Soccer. If we want to be taken seriously as a soccer nation, we've got to hold these people accountable, right? It wasn't good enough, simple as that. Can they bounce back against Jamaica in September in 2 huge games for Olympic qualification? I don't know. There's some good youth coming through. Will Christine Sinclair still be wearing red by that point? I don't know. Should she be? I don't know.
Yeah.
But listen, let's talk about this properly, right? No more excuses. They did not play well. They came out flat pretty much in every game in this tournament, and they crashed out 4-0 to the hosts in the final game. A bit embarrassing.
And in September, a bunch of those checks are still going to be in place, aren't they, as well? You know?
Yeah, well, because there won't be a CBA, that's
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah,
that's a valid point.
Yeah.
So you think were they outplayed, or did they just fold under the pressure?
I think it was both. I think they definitely folded, but they also were definitely outplayed. Australia looked great, and this is without Sam Kerr. Good for them. I mean, they played the better football. Like, give credit where credit's due. I just think since the Olympics, that's something that's also everyone's been holding on to for so long. These are the gold medalists. For sure. But that was how many years ago now? 3? You got to evolve. Like, football's always changing. Sports are always changing, right? So I feel like this team hasn't really evolved since then, because they also brought about the same squad, give or take, some injured players. And we're seeing a World Cup with 32 nations for the first time. You have teams like the Philippines. You have teams like Nigeria out here, performing. Colombia beat Germany over the weekend. Like, this is the time when we're seeing those, smaller teams really shine bright, and you gotta be able to step up to the plate and change and learn. So if anything, hopefully this is a learning process for next year when we have the Olympics again.
Well, listen, if you're Olympic champions, the expectations are through the roof. They have to be.
But they fail again in the World Cup. 8 World Cups, crashed out in the group phase, and 5 of them, I believe it is. That's not good enough.
No.
Sinky said it post-match too. She goes, listen, the other countries are catching up with us. You know what? They've caught up.
Yeah.
It's not catching up. They've caught up, right? They're investing money around the world now. Women's soccer. We've seen, like you mentioned, there other nations like Nigeria come into their place in their evolution where they're going to be starting competing for trophies now. They're that good, I think, potentially. There's a lot of question marks here. I think Bev Priestman, who's done a lot of great things to this program, a good coach, got it wrong. Sinclair shouldn't have started today. Maybe Sophie Schmidt should have started, who we called last game. Why can't she start a game? She was fantastic. Listen, the 4 subs at halftime kind of tells you they get it wrong. So, yeah, point fingers, hold them accountable, but like you said, learn from it and then